Here we are.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing today, Dave?
Great, great, great. And welcome to everybody to the Jump Seat. This week I'm taking on a little different role here as I'm actually on vacation. So we're doing this live from the lake, and John's got you in his room here as well. For those of you guys who are just joining us for the first time, the Jump Seat, hey, it's a weekly spotlight where we showcase key industry leaders, providing you subject matter experts around the industry, and taking a look at some of the newest and latest, greatest technology, as well as what's trending in our industry. So John and myself are glad that you're both with us today, and we're looking forward to having a great show. So John,
You
what
bet.
do you got in store for us today? I know there's some things happening in the news and
You
some
bet.
recent deliveries, I think. So
You got
what's
it.
shaking?
Yep. Yeah, we're going to do a quick apparatus showcase. I'm going to share the screen over here for everybody to see. But last week we had a nice tour of Ferrera fire apparatus there, and got to take a pretty good behind the scenes look at the plant. And one of the things that we visited, for those who were able to tune in, we saw them building a number of SAM trucks with the SAM system on them. And for those who don't know what that is, the SAM system is a pump control system put together by IDEX Fire and Safety brands with Akron, Hale, and Class 1 products. And we had another one. I wanted to work on sharing my screen here. I wanted to highlight another one that just hitting the street right now. So give me just a second. Huh. Okay. I'm going to try this real quick.
Technology, love it when it works, but it's
That's
always
right.
fun when it gives you a little hard time there too,
Here we
right?
go. I think we're in view here, Dave. Can you confirm?
Oh yeah, we got you. I can see it
Awesome.
there.
So this is a quick spotlight here with Rosenbauer fire apparatus, as well as a new SAM unit in service on the Avenger chassis. There's been some pretty great photos we've seen online, which I have a couple more of, but wanted to do a special thanks to Rick Smith with Cause of Fire, as well as the Lawrence Volunteer Fire Company out of PA.
I tell you what,
Pretty neat
this is
truck here.
it really is. It's an incredible looking truck on that new Rosenbauer Avenger chassis. It's a sleek looking modern vehicle. So I'm excited to actually see it when it actually goes live into the street and gets official delivery. I think it just left Rosenbauer here in the last couple of days, I believe. So
You bet.
yeah, so it's I believe it's an RSM pump on there with the SAM system, as you mentioned. There's the pump panel itself, which is
Yep.
incredibly awesome, fully functioned with VMUX as well, and really a unique design. I think the folks at Lawrence are going to be really excited to get that truck in their hands. And hey, John, maybe we should take the show on the road here when we get out of this whole quarantine situation and go visit the truck or something, right? See it
I'm all
firsthand.
for it. I'm all for it.
So
All right.
great stuff by Rick Smith and that crew, and the folks at Cause of Fire. Andy Kaza, the owner of Cause of Fire, has been a great promoter of IDEX and our components, as well as Akron Brass and Hale for years. So thank you
Excellent.
to Andy and to Rick and that whole team out there, and the whole team at Rosenbauer for building really a cool truck.
Super.
Love to get a walk around tour of that one in the near future.
To be determined.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Well, hey, I'll shift gears here a little bit. We wanted to obviously bring in a guest today, and I'll just preface it with when we got on the topic of leadership and dealing with difficult people and firehouse culture, and I couldn't think of a better person. I got to know Chief Streich here. I'll be bringing him in a second. I got to know him about 5 years ago when he was a advisor to my startup company, and just a phenomenal guy. Sees the fire service, not just where it came from, where it is, but where it's going, and he's proactive about it. And so he's a U.S. Army veteran, just recently retired from the Andover, Minnesota Fire Department, but is also now involved in as a contract consultant, a fire chief with the Centennial Fire District. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Chief Streich in. Looks like he's on mute. But Chief Streich, welcome to the Jump Seat. Thanks for coming in today. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Great to see
Awesome.
you again, and we're glad to have you here. And obviously, a pretty distinguished background there from yourself. And so why don't you give us a little bit more, in depth into who you are and how you got involved in this whole leadership thing. Dealing with difficult people in culture of the fire service. I know you've got a lot of expertise in that realm. So, what tripped the trigger and said, "I want to do this. I want to know more. I want to teach more."
Well, teaching has been a fundamental part of my life for many, many years. I started in the fire service when I was just out of high school. Went into the military, came out, got into the National Guard, and then started in the fire service. I grew up right next to a fire station in the city of Coon Rapids. And I'm in an area that's just north of Minneapolis. The office that I sit in right now is about 15 miles away from where the George Floyd incident occurred, if that helps you at all. But we're not far from the metro area. But I got into the fire service because I grew up next to the station. I absolutely love the core values and the purpose of the individual. And so I started applying around. I started in as an on-call, and I continued to work through public safety to get a full-time job. And I just continued to strive to move up the ladder. Of course, I went to school, got all the degrees. I've got several degrees. I'm a fire investigator. I've basically held every rank in the fire service. And I've been an outside chief on several departments, currently working as an interim chief in the Centennial Fire District, which is just north of the city of St. Paul. But how did I get into the topic that made you call me and maybe brought me to FDIC several years ago? I think I've been there, this is my 5th year, if it were open today. But I became a fire chief. Although I never aspired to be the job, I always aspired to move forward. And one of the reasons I wanted to be a fire officer in general is so that I could get closer to the people making the influence, right? Making the decisions. I wanted to be an influencer. And when I'm sitting on the rig and I'm just talking and maybe not happy about what's going on, I'm not part of the solution. So I wanted to be part of that. So I got into the officer role. And of course, went to school, did a lot of training, continued in my job, and applied for jobs and moved around a little bit, which didn't make me a bad guy. I think I've been on 5 departments in my career, 30 and a half years. And I learned so much by being part of multiple departments. But in 2008, an email came across, and I had somebody contact me and said, "Hey, would you consider applying for this position as a fire chief?" I don't know if I want to take that. Life was good. I was 7 minutes from my house. I was visiting my kids at elementary school for lunch because they were in the same town that I was working. And I just had it made. But you know what? I've always told people opportunity doesn't come around that often. So you don't want to be the guy or gal who regrets not applying. So I applied, went through the process, I got the job. So I go into this deep culture of replacing someone who's been there for 20 years. And I guess I had a little bit different values and a little different mission of what a firefighter was and how that operated. And it certainly didn't allow for people to bully and harass people and to, make fun of people and all that stuff that happens in what I call the club days of the fire service. But I ended up dealing with an individual who changed my life, actually changed the way I lead and changed a lot of things in my life, actually probably creating a little post-traumatic stress back in the day. And believe it or not, if you're a leader, there's an ability and a capability of having and a probability of getting post-traumatic stress if you're dealing with a lot of complex personnel issues. And what was going on in 2008? The recession, multiple divorces, losses of houses, and just a whole bunch of things. The long story, search my name, you'll find it. I had an employee that was bullying me from the bottom up, who ultimately, I believe, based off what I know and the year and a half of dealing with this individual, came to the station to hurt me. Because I was in the office with somebody else and I was interviewing them in person, he disappeared, hadn't showed up for the station for 3 months, abusive individual. But he ended up going back down the road to his house. And while I was laying in bed at night, a pager went off, shooting at the address I knew very well. The individual ended up going home, killing his wife and killing himself. And I had to ask the question, first of all, why did I go through the process of being the best firefighter as I could, get the degrees and all that, and have no idea on how to deal with personnel issues and complex issues? Of course, that's complex is complex, right? But when you have somebody come into your office, I've had it happen to me more times than not, now that I've been a chief for 13 years, sit in my office with their chin shaking saying, "Hey, chief, I just feel like I want to kill myself." That's how I got into this. And
That
I had
story,
to ask myself,
let me just
what?
interrupt real quick. That story was a story you told me. I think we were traveling together, and I about just jumped out of my seat. Because I didn't know that was your why. And once you told me that, I'm like, no wonder you do what you do, because you have obviously been through something that totally changed how you saw the world, you saw your career, and you saw the need for this stuff, right? The need for that's here around us, and it's only getting bigger. So
That's true. And that's what's driving this is why didn't I know how to deal with that? And that's what drives me today to use when I talk to junior leaders and they say, how do I get more training on how to do that? Well, you got to be challenged. I've learned so much just by having people challenge me. I see that today because I'm in a different mindset. That is paid training for me. Be professional, be respectful. But when you're going to come up to me and challenge me, I really do see that as paid training because I can't get that in college. You're bringing me a problem. I need to work through it and find a solution.
no doubt. What's I guess on the topic here, define, if you will, healthy culture. Let's imagine a healthy environment in the fire service. What does that look like for you? The different organizations you've worked with and worked in, what are some of the commonalities that we should be aware of as viewers today?
Yeah, well, let's talk about culture in general first. What is culture? If I've learned anything in the fire service going from several departments, I know that I can't take my department that I'm in right now and bring it to your department and do the exact same thing. We're all different because we all have different cultures. Culture is an umbrella of what you believe in, what your organization strives for, how you're going to present yourself to one another. And traveling around the country and in Africa, I've taught in Kenya and I've taught in Liberia. I've seen cultures in the smallest departments just totally blow away any of those that are, 20 times larger. But we define culture within our group. And what is a healthy culture today? And what are we trying to focus on with post-traumatic stress and suicides and all that? We're trying to build a culture of what I call just basic adult decency, right? Let's be nice to one another. Chief Bruno, be nice. Exactly. Let's treat each other with respect. Even though you have a different opinion than I do and you come from a different background, there's no reason to treat them any differently. I mean, just feel the world right now. If your ears are not wide open, there's something wrong. You may be too closed off. But let's imagine going into the fire station and being judged and having, negativity poured on you, and you get home and people are sending you text messages that just don't make you feel well. And a part of the iChiefs program, and I sit on the Bully Task Force, where we have a toolbox to reach out through the iChiefs of how to deal and build better cultures. But once we see firefighters killing themselves with a text message, that's the bad culture, right? How about a culture that everybody believes in? How about a culture that has a mission, a vision, a purpose, and some core values that we all believe in? And let's not knock somebody down because they pulled the wrong hose. Let's encourage them to learn why they pull the hose and why they pull that hose, right? And then high five them because we are a family, we hear. Some people, I have a hard time believing that in some of the departments, and I've been part of some of those. But we all define our culture by the way we present ourselves every day.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the culture is so deeply rooted in a negative mindset, it becomes a norm. And I've had people say, how do you recruit, Chief? How do you get so many people? I say, well, here's what I've learned about recruiting and retention is and I know this because I received, in our area anyways, I received a $1.2 million FEMA grant to study this for 4 years. Most people are coming to your fire department because they see something you're doing on TV, or they're seeing a bunch of superstars get off a $500,000 truck and make an impact, and they want to be part of that. The key to recruitment and retention is to make sure what they see on the outside is the exact same thing on the inside, right? They don't go from what they thought they saw on the outside to a reality TV show.
Chief, I think you bring up a couple really good pieces in there, and that's the coaching is not bullying. It's encouragement, it's giving direction, it's giving correction to make us better, right? And then on top of that, though, you look at the fire service, right? And I just look at the group, the three of us here, right? All three have had various years of experience, 30 plus, 20 plus, 10 plus, and John, right? And so you break that down.
Mhm.
There's also generational gaps between the three of us. Now, maybe not large, but I know in my department, we've got some pretty good spreads. My volunteer company now, I think we've got some in the 70s, and we've got these young guys that, they can't even drink a beer yet. They're 18, 19 years old, right into the fire service. How does that, change generationally? There's got to be differences in how you deal with that or lead those generational differences.
Right, absolutely. And I've been in those positions too, a 18-year-old and a 72-year-old. You have 4 generations in the firehouse. And does that matter? It absolutely matters. And if we're not paying attention to the upcoming generations, we need to focus on how they click, right? And how everyone in the firehouse clicks. And if you're aspiring to be an officer, or if you're a current officer, you're part of a leadership team. Talk about a great culture. When everybody understands that the leadership team runs the organization, and they make decisions that best impact the probability of the people below us to win. That's why we're all here. We're building a culture and environment for people to win, because no one's expecting the fire department to lose. But generational differences make an impact. Let's talk about communication, right?
Oh, yeah.
You've got the 18-year-old that's coming into the fire station. How do they communicate? On their phone. They're digital, right? And when I put out a notice or a chief directive or something, it's like, hey, chief, could you send that to me through Instagram? I want to set it up on TikTok, and I want to read it later and maybe create a video on YouTube, where we go all the way to the other side where our veterans come in, our 72-year-olds or the late baby boomers, and they want something on paper or they want to have a meeting. The baby boomers are known for meetings. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk. Let's look at each other in the eyes. And that's not a bad thing. But what we have to do is make sure when I'm an officer and I'm talking to the 18-year-old, your sending message may be received differently than that message if it were the 72-year-old. So there are generational difference, some really good outlines on how you lead. Some of you may have had leaders in the past that are Effenheimering you and swearing away and pointing their finger and they're, get this done. That the new generations will not tolerate that. Trust me, if that's in your organization, they're going to pick up and leave. But how do we communicate? How do we see one another is the key. And that really defines a positive culture.
So I got to throw one out there real quick. Let me just, for a minute, say this. So Andover's Fire Department was the Fire Department of the Year in 2019, correct?
That's correct.
Which is awesome. Congratulations. You were there. You were part of that. But you when we talked about this, you said, that wasn't me, that was them. I just think it's amazing that you, right out of the gate, you've delegated that and given them ownership in that stake. And let me ask you this. What made Andover earn that spot or earn that role?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm always impressed and I'm always humbled by the amount of people that think Jerry Streich or any chief can do everything by themselves, And yeah, we'll take the heat for it, whatever. But when it comes to that type of award, it's not me. I can set the attitude, I can say, hey, I got my uniform on, I'm coming in, I'm going to say hi to everybody. You ever had those leaders that were just sort of, they're just hi, and then next thing you know, you're getting yelled at for having a cup of coffee on the tailboard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be flatline. I'm trying not to bring any of my negativity into the fire department, and always trying to coach and mentor. It's not about discipline. Discipline is down the road. But if we're disciplining people, sometimes we have to look at ourselves and say, could we have done something differently? And there's a lot of things I could have done differently in the past, but I'm still growing and there's a journey. But in order to have such a prestigious award, you have to have everybody believe in it. And some of the things that happened in my time there was we had a really strong recruitment campaign where we went after the females. And we ended up with 30% of our staff as females. And these are powerful individuals who want to serve, but you're not going to get females in your department if you have a culture of harassment and bad jokes. Some of those jokes that we have, yeah, they're great around a beer when you know your audience, but they see us on the outside as sort of being the boys club, if you will, in a lot of ways. But we need to create a culture that makes them feel welcome and absolutely not tolerate the stuff that they fear. We also need to make sure we give them the right equipment. I mean, if you get your $3,000 set of equipment, why do they get the hand-me-down male equipment and they're not properly fitted to it? Why are they wearing large gloves when they have extra small hands? Those kinds of things that we all need to be open to changing. It'll make your department much more impactful.
I think you're bringing up some great points, and actually, I'm watching a few of the comments come in too. John, I don't know if you've been seeing them, but there's several comments popping in, Chief, that are in agreement with you and really commenting on the fact that, hey, yeah, right there. I think
Cold one in. Yep.
Don Swiger, right? Chiefs are only as good as the team around them, and I think it's exactly what you're saying there as well. And obviously, congratulations to yourself and really to the whole team at Andover for that prestigious award.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. You know what I see my job as is I see me as an advocate between both parties because I do report to people higher than me. But when they come in and say, hey, we're going to remove an engine company, that's my job to stand up for the team and say, here's what that's going to do. And here's how it's going to impact morale. And here's how it's going to impact the team. Just know that that's going to happen. At the same rate, when the team comes up to me and says, hey, these helmets are just not working, they're cracking or whatever. Again, it's my job to get up into the top and say, I need additional funding to get these guys new helmets. We can't expect them to be on a rig with something that won't protect their head. But I think in the country, even though there's a lot of negative feel right now, there's no doubt about it that the United States feels the frontline workers and support them. So everybody that's listening and working in the field today, thank you for hanging on. It's so easy to run away and back out and say, I'm done because of coronavirus. When I started in the 80s, I was going to fires and I was getting cats out of trees. Today we've become this elite team. No one else can do what we do. And if we have a little bit of time, I tell a story all the time as a military person, is when somebody's trapped in a hole that has the United States citizenship in their back pocket, who do we send to go get that person? We send the best. We send the SEALs and the Marines and the Army. We send them all in there. And why? Because there's a higher probability that they're gonna win, right? They have the right mindset. They have the right culture. They took their training seriously and they gave a crap. They have the right tools, they're well-funded, and they're ready to rock, right? Absolutely. Now think of that same thing in your community. When somebody's having an emergency in your community, when they need to be drug out of a hole, who do you think they're looking for?
Well, it's
they're
me.
Not looking
of
for
course,
the circus.
It's me, Chief,
yeah.
and John, besides those two of us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're not looking for the circus. They're looking for a team that has the right equipment, that has the right culture, the right gear, the right attitude and demeanor. So if you're a junior leader or a new leader, you can hit the reset button anytime. I love to say that. Okay, let's hit the reset. Well, what does that mean? We're going to move forward in a different mindset, right? And
Yep.
and sometimes the word change just like changes people's mindset. So how about if we use this? We're not changing anything. We're just going to do it differently.
There you go.
And have you ever seen
Whoa.
those new, boom. But let's go back to the officer and the chief, just to support chiefs out there, is it's not easy being a chief today. I don't know what's going on in your part of the world, but in Minnesota, especially in the metro area, we're having a really hard time finding a pool of chiefs that want to do this job because there's nothing going on. There just seem to be getting beaten up, and there's people. Number 2 seems to be the best job in the world, right? But it isn't an easy job. And if I have an officer group that supports me and that we can trust one another with, I'm in my best position ever. Trust is a dual role. Some people say we don't trust the chief. Well, maybe you don't trust the chief because he doesn't trust you and he's not giving you information. And we got to work through that bridge. We got to get over that bridge somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or somebody's going to leave.
Right. Wow, that's
Right. Yeah.
really good information. And yeah, as I said, this is just such an important topic. And, on that note, I wanted to ask one more kind of question before we start tailing off here. You're on the training circuit. You've done a lot of teaching. You've been to a lot of classes. You've been through a lot of formal education. Within the fire service, what areas or what professional education is missing in our fire service? Where is our biggest gap that you're seeing across the board cohesively?
Yeah, well, back to the Minnesota area, and it may be in your area, but I think what's happening, and I'll get back to your question, but I think what's happening is we're having a hard time finding people to lead our organizations. And because of that, I'm finding that public sector is reducing the minimum requirements in order to be, a chief. I think a chief's position can be done by a lot of people, but if you're not showing the motivation to go learn a new perspective and new ideas through education, that may be a sign that you may do the same thing in your organization. But what's missing today in the world that we live in, when we all should have our ears open, is likely a debate class. Unfortunately, we're having a hard time communicating at times and listening to one another's differences. And if we had a debate class, or we set up a program that actually allowed us to, under some controls, debate about what you believe and what I believe, and we go out of there saying, we learned something about your side that I didn't know, and I learned something about your side that I don't know. Let's take a white fire truck and a red fire truck. Some people will say every truck's got to be red. Well, my neighboring department believes fire trucks are white, and we can sit and criticize their white trucks because we don't know anything about it. But if we were to have a debate, they would say, we believe our mechanized unit shall remain white. And let me tell you why. We began our fire service in 1856. And what led our fire equipment to the fire scene? White horses. And those white horses are part of the tradition and culture that we believe in. And because of that, when we went to a mechanized unit back in the early 1900s, we made a decision that all of our trucks will be white. Go to the red side. Why are your trucks red? Because we believe red is the color of blood, and blood is sacrifice. But can you see the value in both of those arguments? Rather than shutting out, we learn something just by one another's discussion in a controlled environment. We have to be all ears today. We have to talk about diversity. We have to talk about so many different things, and just listen. And don't be so quick to post, and don't be so quick to have an opinion until you have all the facts, and better your department with them. Here's some words you can use. Oh, I see your point there. That makes sense. Okay, but let me tell you my side. And here's what I understood, and I understand, and I respect that position. Those are some key words that say, I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to work with you to try to find out why you think we should pull 1.5 inches on an 86 unit apartment fire. Let's just debate one another under control measures without getting so angry and mad at each other. And sometimes when we're constantly in a world of negativity, we go to the right side of the brain, which is fight or flight. When we go to the left side of the brain, we're in the logical side of our thinking process. And this is all science stuff that you can catch up on. Go to Rich Gassaway's page and he'll teach you all about it. But fight or flight, and you can stay in that mode all the time where you think somebody's always talking about you. And when somebody lays a phone on a table, it's I know he's recording our messages. And you know what? Let's get out of that mode. Let's talk about the purpose that we're here, and we're all here to serve. We're all here to do good things, and I'm sure 100% of us wake up every day to do good things.
So, Chief, we've been talking for about 20, 25 minutes, I guess, and a lot of great stuff coming out. I'm seeing a lot of the comments popping in that have been awesome, reinforcing your points here, and but there's a number of folks who don't have the opportunity to get out and learn more by attending classes right now. Particularly, they're stuck at home with COVID. How can they find more out about this topic? Where can they learn more? Maybe even online.
Yeah. So let's what you all had, many of you had that I didn't have when I was a rookie, is the internet, right? And quick access to information galore. Now, if you go to Wikipedia, Wikipedia is a program that allows anybody really to change what it says. But let's go and search for the basics and really find out. Let's get out of the fire service. Let's talk about organizational development, organizational structure, and this term known as organizational practitioner. Actually practicing the development, design, and management of an organization, which talks about culture. It talks about mission. If you don't have a mission on your wall, and I know many of you don't because I travel around the country, if you don't have a mission that states your daily purpose, the mission of this fire department is to provide quality service using the best technology and education we can. Boom, done. If you don't have that on your wall, that's a first step, because I can take any firefighter, any officer, and I do it myself, where I go look at the mission and say, am I doing that now, or am I just a total ass? But am I doing that now? Yes, I'm doing that every day. All right, I'm on track. I'm in my swim lane, right? And then let's all talk to the officers and say, could you develop a vision for us that we can look forward to in the next few years? And when you start to search those topics out, or you contact me and I can help you get through some of that, John will post my contact information, Twitter page, and so on. Yep. Contact me anytime. Attend classes. One of the most popular classes that I teach is dealing with difficult people and their organizational impacts. I think some people laughed at that at first, but it's a double room, packed room full of people who want to know how people, how they can relate to people who are difficult. And what is difficult to me? It's someone who's changing the mood of your organization on a regular basis. Jerry Streich has been difficult in 30 years. There's no doubt about it. But I don't believe I've been doing it consistently, which is making a negative impact. Because my motto, my personal motto in life, is to leave a legacy, not a tragedy.
Well,
wow.
Search the web.
Chief Streich, thank you so much for being on the jump seat here with us. We've right there at the bottom of the screen. You guys can all check it out. You can learn more at his website, Capstone Public Sector. There, www.capstonepss.com, or catch him on Twitter. Right, because we were talking about Twitter beforehand before we got on the live portion today. So at Chief J Streich, you can follow him and catch those tweets on a regular basis. So, Chief, thank you so much. It's been very informational for me, just getting to know you better. I know you've known John here for a little while now. We really appreciate it, and wish you the best of luck in your new temporary role there in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And, maybe we can have you back again sometime here in the future, as well as we continue to elaborate and build on various topics, particularly leadership here in the fire service.
Definitely. Thanks, Chief. We'll see you next time.
Yes.
All right. Well, Dave, that was great. I don't know about you, but man, that was full of valuable information, and I look forward to hearing from him again at some point. So wanted to just kind of wrap up the show, I guess. We'll be here next week again on the 24th, here live on Facebook as well as YouTube, just like always. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and please share our message. And we saw some comments coming in today. That was great. And keep it coming. We want to continue to make this an interesting, valuable piece of information for our viewers out there. So if nothing else, everybody have a safe weekend, and we will plan on seeing you next week, same place, same time.
John, you have a great week. I'm going to go check out the beach here a little bit, maybe do a little fishing this afternoon.
There you
We'll
go.
catch you later, buddy.
All right.
See you guys. Thanks for joining us.